My God, I hate trucks.
House of Representatives approves on second reading Speaker Gloria Arroyo's draft federal constitution. A shift to federal form of government is President Duterte's campaign promise. The measure was passed through viva voce or voice voting. Arroyo has conceded that Congress cannot pass charter change under her watch, but she says the lawmakers will bring it as far as they can, hoping that the next Congress will be able to pass it. The 17th Congress ends session in 2019. Arroyo's draft was controversial for a number of reasons. These include the removal of term limits for members of Congress and the lack of an anti-political dynasty provision. It earlier removed the vice president in the succession line for the transition to a federal government, but was later restored after some backlash. Senators, meanwhile, say there is no more time to tackle charter change because of the deliberations for the 2019 proposed budget, which they could target to pass before the year ends. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana says there is a need to further extend martial law in Mindanao. In an interview on The Source, Lorenzana says remnants of terrorist groups in Mindanao need to be completely eradicated. He says authorities are also validating reports of terrorists coming into the country from Indonesia and Malaysia.
There are still terrorists lurking around Mindanao. There's still remnants of Maute. Since they're already small, it's very difficult to look for them. They're still in central Mindanao. Some of them are being protected by the BIFF in central in the Guas and Mars area. There are still Abu Sayyaf in Holo and Basilan. Not so much in Tawi-Tawi. Tawi-Tawi is a little bit more peaceful than the two other islands. So that's one. Second is the BOL plebiscite will occur in January 19, and I think we should be there also to protect the plebiscite. And then there is this midterm election. I would follow the recommendation of the Chief of Staff. I would also recommend the extension of martial law for another year. Advance Malacanang has submitted the letter to Congress because the law says that the President should ask Congress for the extension. So we are going to appear before Congress and explain to them why we need another extension of martial law.
Lorenzana assures the public they will not recommend a nationwide martial law. Catch the full interview with the defense chief on The Source later. Heads up beachgoers, more establishments in Boracay now allowed to operate. The Tourism Department posted today on its Facebook page the updated list of accredited hotels and resorts. All 268 establishments are approved by the Departments of Tourism, Environment, and Interior Local Government. This means the establishments have complied with government regulations and are now authorized to accept bookings and reservations. Boracay reopened to tourists in October following a 6-month cleanup and rehabilitation. A new survey shows a steady increase in the number of Filipinos using the internet. Based on the latest Social Weather Station survey, 4 out of 10, or 41% of Filipino adults are internet users. This is just 1 point higher than the 40% recorded in June. The survey also shows internet use has always been highest in Metro Manila and in urban areas since the poll was first conducted in 2006. SWS says these internet users are mostly women, younger Filipinos, and college graduates. The survey was conducted from September 15 to 23 among 1,500 respondents. Budget Secretary Ben Jokno says President Duterte has approved the additional fuel excise tax next year as recommended by economic managers. In a text message, Jokno says the premise for suspending the additional tax, namely high fuel prices, does not exist. He adds the tax impact will be negligible because of substantially low pump prices. The budget chief explains at its peak, diesel price was 49 pesos and 80 centavos per liter, will be 37 pesos and 76 centavos in January 2019, inclusive of the 2 peso excise tax. For gasoline that reached almost 61 pesos per liter, he says they expect it to cost almost 10 pesos less, inclusive of the 2 peso additional excise tax. Jokno says revenue losses may reach 43.4 billion pesos without the tax. a big amount that is needed to fund the build infrastructure project. He says President Duterte is only implementing the train law, and even if there's a second tranche of the excise tax, fuel prices will be 10 pesos lower than their peak sometime in October. In the meantime, presidential spokesperson Sal Panelo says while the oil excise tax increase is a negligible contributor to inflation, the government still commits to provide financial assistance to the 50% poorest households. We go above and beyond the headlines. Let's speak with Alvin Ang, the director of Ateneo Center for Economic Research. Good evening, Alvin.
Hello, good evening, Ruth, and to all your viewers.
Yes, can you tell us about the possible implications of the higher fuel excise tax for next year?
Well, based on the train law, there is a provision that the only time that the additional taxes will not be imposed if the Dubai crude or where we are basing our prices is averaging $80, and that's not happening already. And so I guess the implications, just like what Secretary Diokno already mentioned, is that the taxes will be imposed because there's no legal basis for not imposing it. On the other hand, the fear that it could increase inflation again, I think historically what they have said is correct. The only thing that is not imputed in their analysis is the possibility of expectations, which played a big role in the train implementation this year.
Yeah, so Alvin, so you don't think this will lead to higher consumer prices? Wala siyang magiging effect na parang domino effect on the prices of basic goods?
Well, theoretically, it should not. However, as I said, what has happened in this round of the first year of the implementation of the train, much of the price increases was really because people expected higher prices, so they started to buy more, consume more, and so there was a supply problem. But most of the inflation increases were actually traced to food supply limitations. So we are addressing that now. So to make sure that this will not create another round of inflation challenges, it must be made sure that supply of basic commodities, particularly rice, would be available.
Okay, so Alvin, what do you think the government should do to ensure stable consumer prices, just in case that happens?
Well, the first thing is continue this early importation and making sure that rice is available. The rice tarification bill must be passed into law soon. Some of the supply challenges must be addressed, not waiting when it is happening. I mean, there has to be at least a 2-3 months head start with all of this. And also, the lowering of global oil prices is something that we're not sure if this is going to continue or not. So we still have to monitor if there are substantial sudden changes in the global oil price market, so that we will already prepare once such a condition again happens. Because like what happened this year, we did not know it would move that fast and it would go down so quick.
But usually during that time, ano ba usually yung trend when it comes to world oil prices around January?
That's no longer predictable now, because if it's based on historical movements, the prices should be rising at this point in time until around the first quarter of the year, because it's winter season in the Western Hemisphere.
Pero hindi na nangyayari yun sa gano'n. So there's no way we can tell about the trend. Yeah.
It's now geopolitical, not economic supply and demand of global oil prices only that dictates its prices.
Okay, thank you very much to Alvin Ang of the Ateneo Center for Research. The provisional jeepney fare rollback takes effect today, but jeepney drivers and passengers are not aware of this. Commuters and jeepney groups both slam transport regulators for not consulting them before publishing the provisional rollback resolution, and for seemingly snubbing the hearing for the commuters group's petition to move the minimum jeepney fare back to 8 pesos. Carolyn Bonquin has the details.
Vicky and Melba still pay 10 pesos for their jeepney ride on Tuesday morning. They're not aware, starting today, jeepney minimum fare is temporarily back to 9 pesos. This is after the LTFRB published a resolution for a provisional 1 peso jeepney fare rollback following recent cuts to diesel prices.
10 pesos kasi yung minimum fare.
Sumakay na kami ng jeep kanina, 10 pa rin eh. Mas maganda pa, mas mababa pa dyan.
Just like the passengers, most jeepney drivers like Lito Tuliao are still not aware of the rollback.
Wala pa naman official na ano sa kanyan na ibababa na. Kakakuha lang namin ng fare matrix. Ibababa na naman. Nagbayad kami ng taripa na yan.
And there are those like Joselito who has been charging 9 peso minimum fare even before the rollback because he still doesn't have the 10 peso fare matrix.
Wala pa kasi akong taripa kaya 9 pa rin. Ganon din, magbababa rin naman
Transport and commuter groups both say there would have been no confusion had LTFRB consulted them. They went to the LTFRB office on Tuesday morning for the scheduled hearing on the pending petition to move the minimum jeepney fare back to 8 pesos, only to find out it has been canceled. The hearing has been moved to January next year.
Biglaan, hindi po dumaan dun sa tinatawag nating demokratikong proseso.
Dapat doon, binigyan muna kami ng resolution.
Gusto sana namin formal para yung ating mga tsuper at pasahero hindi mag-aaway sa labas. Noong nag-increase kami, nag-antay pa kami ng mahigit 10 araw bago kami nakasingil.
LTFRB member Eileen Lizada was also not aware the hearing was canceled and the provisional fare rollback would take effect today. Lizada said she was waiting for the board to address her comments on the resolution draft yesterday.
We may issue the corresponding relief. Pwede. Pero in this case kasi, merong petition. So when there is a petition, what is the next thing to do? Dapat ang ginawa kasi namin noon, prioritize yung petition.
But LTFRB chairman says there's no need for public hearing.
Nevertheless, yung board resolution naman din po ay kinikilala natin yung mga nangyayari in the last several weeks, yung tinatawag natin yung pulso ng bayan kung saan yung mga pasahero humihingi na rin ng pagbaba ng pamasahe dahil nga bumababa yung oil price.
LTFRB also sees no reason to refund the jeepney drivers and operators payments for the fare matrix when the 10 peso minimum fare was implemented last month. Carolyn Bonquin, CNN Philippines.
Court insiders say the Supreme Court has ruled Palawan Province is not entitled to any share from the Malampaya gas project. CNN Philippines sources say the voting was unanimous. A petition was filed questioning an executive order issued by then-President Gloria Arroyo that gave Palawan Province a share from the Malampaya natural gas project royalty. The EO authorized the release of half of the disputed 40% local government share to the province and congressional districts of Palawan as well as Puerto Princesa City. Petitioners said the order violated the local government code and the Constitution's guarantee of equitable wealth sharing. They said neither the provincial governor, lawmakers, nor the Puerto Princesa mayor was authorized to sign on behalf of other local government units in Palawan. They added the local government code contains a provision stating the proceeds should be directly released to local government units. In 1990, the government entered into a service contract with Shell Philippines Exploration BV and Occidental Philippines Incorporated. The contract covered the exploration and later on drilling of a natural gas reservoir around 80 kilometers from the Palawan coastline. The project was said to be the largest single investment in the country, estimated to generate around $8 to $10 billion for the government. What do you think about our top stories tonight? Send us a message at CNN Philippines. We're also live on Facebook. We'll read your comments at the end of the show. Here's something new out of the United States. Imagine checking in for a flight just by looking at a computer screen. Well, that's now possible at the Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta City in the state of Georgia. The new facial recognition technology promises to improve aviation security while moving travelers faster through screening. It's a camera-based system that compares scans of travelers' faces to a database of verified ID photos. Passengers who don't feel comfortable using this can opt to go through traditional ID verification using their passports.